Hello, everyone. Today, I want to share a story called World Traveler. It's about how one person's journey across the world became a journey of learning, courage, and change. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. I was born in a small city called Dayton, in the state of Ohio. It was quiet, clean, and safe. But to tell the truth, I never felt truly comfortable there. Life in Dayton was simple. People worked from Monday to Friday, watched football on weekends, and spent time with their families. I had good friends, but something inside me always whispered, "There's more out there." Every time I looked at airplanes flying above, I wondered, where are they going? What would it feel like to be somewhere completely different? When I was a kid, I loved reading books about faraway places. Japan, India, Brazil, they sounded like other worlds. The languages, the colors, the food, everything seemed so alive. I began to dream of traveling, even before I ever left home. My parents loved to travel. My father worked for an international company, and his job took him to many countries. My mother was a teacher, but she loved exploring, so she often joined him. When I was 13, they took me with them for the first time, to France. I will never forget walking down the streets of Paris, seeing the Eiffel Tower sparkle at night, and tasting a real croissant. It was magical. People spoke a language I didn't understand, but their smiles made me feel welcome. In that moment, I realized that the world was much bigger than I had imagined. From then on, I knew I didn't want to stay in one place for too long. My parents took me to more countries: Spain, Italy, and Japan. Each place had its own magic. In Spain, people laughed loudly and stayed up late. In Italy, I ate the best pasta in my life. But Japan captured my heart completely. Japan was different from any other country I had seen. The streets were clean and quiet. People bowed politely and worked with discipline. We lived in Tokyo for 6 months, and every day felt like a dream. I remember visiting ancient temples, watching people pray, and then walking a few streets away to see neon lights and tall skyscrapers. Tradition and modern life lived together, perfectly balanced. I learned how to use chopsticks, how to bow, and even a few Japanese words. My favorite was arigato, which means thank you. Japan taught me respect, patience, and calmness, lessons I still remember today. When we came back to the United States, I felt different. My friends talked about football games, school dances, and local news. But my mind was somewhere else, maybe in a quiet garden in Kyoto or a cafe in Paris. I missed hearing different languages. I missed the adventure of not knowing what tomorrow would bring. That's when I promised myself, when I grow up, I will travel the world on my own. Years later, after college, I finally decided to do it. I bought a small car and started driving south, all the way to Mexico. My parents were worried, but I was excited. Crossing the border felt like stepping into a new world. The air was warmer, the streets were louder, and people smiled at me like I belonged there. In Mexico City, I met a kind family who invited me to dinner. We ate tacos and laughed together, even though we didn't speak the same language. That's when I learned something important. Kindness doesn't need translation. I continued driving through Guatemala, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and finally Panama. It was not always easy. Sometimes I got lost. Sometimes my car broke down, and sometimes I felt alone. But each problem taught me something new. How to fix things, how to stay calm, and how to trust strangers. By the time I reached Panama, I had changed completely. I had become stronger, braver, and more open-minded. Traveling teaches many lessons, not only about countries or cultures, but about life itself. In every place I visited, people lived differently, yet they all wanted the same things: love, safety, and happiness. I saw children playing soccer on dusty streets. I saw old women selling fruit at the market. I saw young couples dreaming about the future. And I realized the world is not divided by borders. It's connected by people. Of course, not every day was perfect. There were hard times, too. Once in Honduras, I lost my wallet and had no money for 2 days. I survived by eating bananas and drinking water until help came. But those moments taught me courage. They showed me that life doesn't have to be easy to be beautiful. Even when things go wrong, you can still smile and keep moving forward. After a few years, I went back to Asia, and this time alone. I visited Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Indonesia. Each country had its own beauty. In Thailand, I rode an elephant through the jungle. In Vietnam, I watched fishermen cast their nets at sunrise. In Indonesia, I climbed a volcano and watched the sun rise above the clouds. People there didn't have much money, but they had big hearts. They shared what little they had. Their food, their stories, their kindness. I felt at home even though I was far away. Travel was no longer just a dream. It became a way of life. Later, I returned to Europe. I lived in Germany for 1 year and worked as an English teacher. Life there was organized, quiet, and sometimes a bit cold. But I made friends who showed me their culture. The Christmas markets, Oktoberfest, and small-town festivals. Then I went back to Italy. Every day there was filled with art, music, and good food. Italians live with passion. They talk loudly, laugh often, and love deeply. From Italy, I traveled to Greece. I walked under the blue sky near ancient temples and felt history beneath my feet. It was like walking inside a storybook. My next adventure took me to Africa. I visited Kenya, Ethiopia, and South Africa. The landscapes were wild and full of life. I saw lions, elephants, and giraffes in their natural homes. But what touched me most were the people. In Kenya, a little boy asked me to play soccer with him. His ball was made from plastic bags tied together. We played and laughed for an hour. That moment reminded me that joy doesn't depend on what you have. It depends on your heart. Africa taught me gratitude, to be thankful for every sunrise, every meal, and every smile. After many years, I returned to the United States. When I arrived in Dayton, everything looked smaller. The houses, the streets, even the problems people talked about. But something inside me had grown larger. My friends asked me, "Don't you get tired of traveling?" I smiled and said, "No. Traveling isn't about moving from one place to another. It's about seeing the world and yourself with new eyes." I started sharing my stories with others. I wrote a travel blog and spoke at schools. I told young students that the world is full of opportunities, if they are brave enough to explore. I showed them photos from Japan, stories from Mexico, and songs from Africa. I wanted them to see that the world is not scary. It's beautiful, and people everywhere have something to teach us. Some students later told me they had started traveling too. That made me happier than anything else. Now, after visiting more than 50 countries, I understand what travel really means. It's not about collecting stamps on your passport. It's about collecting moments, the ones that make you smile years later. Traveling teaches patience when things go wrong, courage when you feel lost, and kindness when you meet someone different from you. It reminds us that humanity is one big family. When you return home, you're not the same person anymore. Your heart is bigger. Your mind is more open. Your soul is more peaceful. So if you ever get a chance to travel, even to a nearby city, take it. The world is the greatest classroom. Every street, every person, every meal has something to teach you. And remember, you don't need to go far to start learning. Sometimes the biggest journey begins the moment you decide to see the world differently. I was born in Dayton, Ohio, but now I belong to the world. And the world, with all its colors, sounds, and people, belongs to me.